Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of Soft Signal, um, coming to you from Toronto and Paris, respectively. We're going to cover more of the IPL this week. Um, it's in full flow now. Every team has played at least 2 or 3 matches. There's a match going on right now as we speak, but we will touch upon that and maybe in our larger review. Hi, Aditya, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I think you absolutely nailed it there. I think the IPL is now I wouldn't say at the business end, but it's heating up. Right,
Yeah,
we're getting to see more players. We're getting to see the team compositions, and clearly now there are some teams that have already started. Laying down the let's say the rules
yeah,
for this tournament, right? And some teams have already started falling behind. So
exactly.
let's see, it seems to be heating up.
Yeah, it's good to see that there are definitely some themes forming through the first couple of matches. Of course, that can change, but we just thought we'd go through what the current scenario is, how each team is doing, and maybe where they need to improve. So, surprise and a pleasant surprise for me, RCB top of the table, 3 out of 3 wins, and they are not normally good starters. So, this is really unexpected, but I think a large part of that has to do with AB and Maxwell uh, just shining for them. I think AB de Villiers has always been their star player, but there was a lot expected out of Maxwell, and so far he has delivered. Um, and another something that's definitely helping them is their death bowling, which has been also their downfall in the previous seasons. In fact, I just texted you a few minutes ago, just before starting, that I think Andre Russell was going to take this away from them in their match, but Siraj bowled the 19th over and gave just 1 run away. And this is something that would have just been unimaginable a couple of years ago, even last year. So I think that it comes down to confidence. They seem like a team. I mean, every team feels good when they win, but they are a team which really thrives on the winning momentum, and I think it's really showing. And what do you think of RCB so far? Have you been surprised or
Yeah, I've been surprised.
expected it?
I've No, I didn't expect it, not at all. I'm surprised as well, but I think it's pretty evident who's driving this change. AB de Villiers, 3 games, 250s, including the one this earlier today, and impactful 50s. Right, they're coming at a strike rate of above 150 each time. He's taking the game away from the opposition with his batting, with his innovative batting, and it's always been innovative. So AB de Villiers is coming to the fore, and yeah, Glenn Maxwell, absolutely important. I was surprised that he's batting above AB de Villiers, but I guess now the decision seems to have been validated
Yeah,
because he's putting in some really good performances as well. You spoke about Mohammad Siraj, so I won't go back there. I've been impressed by Harshal Patel as well. So he took a fifer in the first game. Today as well, I think his stats for RCB in the game earlier today were also pretty impressive. So he's yeah, I'm just looking at them now, and he bowled his 4 overs for 17 runs and took 2 wickets.
yeah,
So clearly, they've got their death bowling sorted, which was always an issue for them, and they've got two two overseas batsmen in Maxwell and AB de Villiers who are firing. So I'm pretty sure there's going to come a time in the tournament where Kohli also finds his form, and then that makes them so strong anyway. So
yeah.
good
And I
start
think,
for them.
sorry, go. The uncapped players are just shining this season. Like Harshal Patel, I thought was like I thought it's a one-off performance in the first game, especially since he got a lot of his wickets in the last couple of overs. But they're trusting him at the death as well to bowl, which is just. I think he bowled the last over in their match against Hyderabad, and
Yes.
the way they came back in that game, I think Hyderabad was so well poised, and the way they took that game out is just maybe this is the start of, could this be RCB's year? I mean, 14 years in, Kohli finally might get an IPL trophy, but let's
Yeah.
not uh, be too presumptuous, because right on their heels and finding some really good form as well are Mumbai Indians. And they honestly, I think of course, they've been skillful in closing out the games, but they've also been lucky. They could have really lost all three games by now. They have their last two games this week against Kolkata and Hyderabad. They were in really bad positions, especially against Kolkata, where they needed
Yeah.
30 of 30 at one point, and they still managed to lose that game by around more than 10 runs, with Russell and Karthik as finishers. So it's just Mumbai doing Mumbai things, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has been down to their death bowling. Their last four overs are always Bumrah and Bolt, and think batsmen sense that coming and they try to take risks earlier to so that they don't have too many runs to score against the last four. And Rahul Chahar has just been a revelation especially in the Kolkata game. The way he just turned the game on its head. It seemed like they were going to win easily. So Mumbai, not they lost their first game as they always do, but they are all definitely back in the reckoning.
Yeah. I mean, I think the key thing about Mumbai's bowling is that the death overs are sorted, right? I don't think there are going to be too many games where you'll see them get smashed for like 60, 65 runs in the last 3 or 4 overs. That's just not going to happen because of the quality of bowlers that they've got in the death.
Yeah.
So I think oppositions are trying to score in the middle phase. But then Rahul Chahar, who's become or developing into quite a good spinner himself, is able to pick up wickets in that phase. He's picked up 3 wickets in the game against SRH and 3 wickets in the game against KKR as well. So he's picking up wickets. He's stemming the flow in the middle overs. The result is that the opposition has got nowhere to go, and it's just Mumbai doing Mumbai things. You're right.
Yeah.
And of course, speaking about Mumbai, it's pretty obvious which team you're going to cover next, right? It's CSK,
Yeah.
because Mumbai and CSK always go together. So, well, about CSK, I think it's been a sluggish start, I would say. But even in spite of that, it's not been a problematic start like they had last season. So I think I mean I wouldn't look much into the game against Punjab, um, except for the fact that Deepak Chahar opened the bowling really well. 4 wickets, one maiden, 13 runs in his 4 overs. When you have your lead bowler doing that, then you're always going to be ahead of the game. And then, of course, chasing down 106 in a T20 game at Mumbai is really a formality.
Yeah.
But what of course has impressed me about CSK was the change in the batting lineup that they've done. Right, I think bringing Moeen Ali to number 3 in the batting lineup seems to have helped. I think very recently he came out in an interview saying that he enjoyed the freedom that he was being given at number 3 to actually influence the game. And of course, that's super important because you've got Moeen Ali coming in at 3 and being extremely explosive. You've got Suresh Raina following at 4, who's already in good form this tournament. And then you've got guys like Jadeja and Sam Curran to finish. And I'm saying finish, but I'm not saying MS Dhoni. And that's because MS Dhoni hasn't got going in this tournament as yet. But let's see how his batting comes through. One thing's for sure, his captaincy is always going to be good. So encouraging signs for CSK at the start of this tournament.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Dhoni, I think now at this stage, he's more of just like there to captain the team. And I mean, I'm not expecting anything too great from him. I could be wrong, and then because he's proved so many people wrong over the years. But yeah, it's just the situation where I think they're gonna rely more on other players to take them through. But it was a good confidence boosting win for them. It was a one-sided game almost, and yeah, great week to be a Jaher, I think, because both of them, I think they're cousins, not brothers, but they just really help their team over the line in crucial games.
Yes,
We'll,
absolutely.
I think for the next couple of teams, we can look at them together maybe because they played the game this week. So Delhi Capitals and Rajasthan Royals. So it was another tense chase for Rajasthan, and they managed to do it this time. And again, it's just like Maxwell. I think Chris Morris, the most expensive player in the auction, proved his worth. I think that hitting at the end was tremendous. Feel sorry for Tom Curran. I think he's actually been dropped from the game they're playing right now and I'm not surprised because I think he's actually the weak link in the Delhi bowling lineup. They had a top order collapse, and I think their top order, especially since they performed so well in the last game, in their first game, I mean, so Shaw and Dhawan failed, and then the rest was just disappointing. I know Rishabh Pant tried to salvage the innings and he played really well, but I think their score was just not enough. But I'm not so worried about Delhi. I think they have still a very strong core of players. It was an off day for them, and I still see them if they can sort out their. I think they've. I am not sure who they replaced Tom Curran with today, but yeah, if they can sort that bit out, they should still be good. Rajasthan, sorry, I just want to say one point about Rajasthan is that they just lost Ben Stokes to the whole tournament, which is a huge blow for them, especially after Jofra Archer is out as well. So yeah, they won the game, but I don't I don't think they have a strong enough core or a strong enough team to do much more in this tournament.
Yeah. So indeed, Rajasthan has really suffered a big blow with Ben Stokes not being available for the rest of the tournament. I think, um, of course, what that means is that it puts a lot more pressure on Josh Butler and Sanju Samson to deliver at the top of the order. They still have a strong lower order, I would say, with David Miller and Chris Morris. Chris Morris now, of course, with having played that really good innings against Delhi and taking Rajasthan over the line, would feel a lot less pressure. There is a lot of expectations on those who get paid as much as him and absolutely break the bank during the auction. So, with that innings, at least that pressure of expectations would have probably settled a bit for Chris Morris. So, expect his tournament to go only upwards from here. If it can happen, if that does happen, then maybe Rajasthan could still be less impacted by the loss of Ben Stokes.
Yeah,
Uh, of course, you can't replace a player like Ben Stokes, right? Someone who's so good with the bat, the ball, and in the field. But I think what Rajasthan would now require is for guys like Shivam Dubey to step up a little bit. Josh Butler and Sanju Samson will need to take the lead from the top of the innings. But they need guys like Shivam Dubey, Rahul Tewatia to stand up and be counted a little more. And Delhi, I think, I think, yeah, Delhi is still a strong team. You look through their lineup, their batting lineup, it's pretty settled. I mean, okay, there's no Shreyas Iyer this season, so that's a little bit of a problem because they don't have anyone who's probably as dynamic or versatile as him. Um, but I think the other guys around him, like Shikhar Dhawan, Prithvi Shaw, Rishabh Pant, Marcus Stoinis, I think they are pretty well enough suited to handle everything else. Uh, I, I, we've not yet seen the best of Rabada in this tournament. I think last tournament he was really good. He was taking a wicket or he was taking two wickets every match. So yet to see the best of him, but if they can get that sorted, then if they can get the whole format of who's batting where and who's going to bowl where sorted, I think Delhi is really not going to have too much of a problem this season. They're still one of the stronger contenders.
yeah,
And that brings us to KKR. So KKR is a good team. I mean, they've got some really good players in there. Um, it seems that they've got a clear understanding of who's opening, who's playing in the middle, who's finishing, who are their main bowlers. I just think at the moment things aren't falling into place in terms of form, right? You alluded to the match between KKR and MI earlier in the show. It's unbelievable how someone like Andre Russell and Dinesh Karthik couldn't get them over the line in that game, because there wasn't really so much pressure in terms of asking rate. And these guys are proven finishers, right? They've done it time and again with even if the asking rate is more. So I think their middle order, and that includes uh, Dinesh Karthik, Andre Russell, and to an extent even Shakib. I think they're struggling from a lack of form at the moment. But uh, let's see how they can recover from that, because honestly they don't need all four of them firing. Even if two of them fire, it's going to be good enough. I've been impressed by Andre Russell's bowling at the death though, up until the game that just finished. uh, he was excellent in those 2 or 3 overs that he bowled against Mumbai, where he took a fifer. Today it didn't quite come off for him, but that's what bowling at the death is, right? What impresses me is that they've got a specific role for him, because he's not coming on before the 16th over at all. So he's just going to come in at the death, around the wicket, bowl wide outside off stump, and hopefully stop players from doing to him what he does to them. So let's see how that goes with KKR. But in general, it's a good team. They just need the players to click.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned that they have their batting order all settled and they seem to have followed the same one in each game. I actually wonder if that might be holding them back a bit, because just in today's chase, for example, they sent Andre Russell down very low, like at 7, which he's been doing, but maybe for today's match, since they had such a high target to chase, it might have been better for them to send him up a bit ahead of uh, Dinesh Karthik and Shakib. Shakib especially didn't play too well. He was 26 of 25, which is just match losing in a situation like in a when you need such a high target to chase. So maybe that's holding them back. And but I think I agree, they had a total brain fade against Mumbai, and today they were just outclassed by AB and Maxwell. So they shouldn't have too much to be concerned about, but they need to think, be open to be more flexible with their batting as well. It might help them in the future games. Okay, but I think we just have two teams left. I will Punjab. I not much to talk about them honestly, because we they had a really bad day against Chennai, but their first game their batting clicked, and it looks like actually as we speak their batting is they are at 63 for no loss after 7 overs against Delhi.
Okay.
So it looks like they're back on track. Since we made a rule that we have to talk about Nicholas Puran in every episode, I just want to mention he scored a duck in the last game. So
Yeah.
he's not. I mean, maybe hopefully he scores something today, because I think he's crucial to their success. So yeah, not much to say about them. It's still early days. They had one game where the first game was really good for them. I think the way they managed to win that with under that against that amazing innings from Sanju Samson was good, and then they just had a really bad day against Chennai. So we'll see how they go. Do you have anything to add about Punjab?
No, I think Punjab seems to be following the usual template that they do each year, right? With KL Rahul playing the sheet anchor, hopefully batting through the overs and then exploding at the end. And I'm looking at the score right now, Punjab versus Delhi Capitals, and KL Rahul has actually 25 runs from 28 balls.
Yeah.
So clearly he is setting his stall out, and hopefully he would want to be there towards the end. I think I was impressed with the batting of the Bollywood legend Shah Rukh Khan in the last game. Um, uh, or actually, I'm sorry, was that Mohammad Azharuddin?
No, I
I'm
think
actually
Azharuddin is playing
confused.
for Bangalore, so this might have been.
Yeah, but I think it was. or it was Shah Rukh Khan who played really well in Punjab's previous game. Well, anyways, I need to just check that once. But the point is that with Punjab, given that their batting seems to be a little bit low in terms of ability, let's say at numbers 6, 7, 8 onwards, KL Rahul needs to play this way. So let's see how that goes for Punjab. But I find this team quite entertaining, and it's a team that I like to follow as well because they've got some really um, good players. Deepak Hooda, for example, he's had quite a few impactful last few games. Batting at number 4, I think he's finally getting an opportunity. He seems to be a good player, a decent player. It's just that in all the other franchises that he's played for before this, and I remember Rajasthan Royals, I remember RCB, he's been batting at number 7 and number 8 even at times. So you can't really have too much of an impact as a batsman from those positions. Hopefully, now that he's getting an opportunity at number 4, he will be able to show what he's capable of. And yeah, Nicholas Puran. Let's wait. I think he's still gonna
Yeah,
come good at some stage because he's that good a player.
he will. And by the way, you're right. It was Shah Rukh Khan. I just checked the scorecard, so
He was okay.
it was Shah Rukh
So
Khan. So
it is the Bollywood legend doing amazing things
yeah,
in the team of Punjab.
almost 50% of the runs. I think at 47 out of the grand total of 106 that they made. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and rounding off the table, and I'm not surprised. I kind of predicted this at the start that Sunrisers Hyderabad 3 losses out of 3, and the reasons are not surprising either. Is there lack of a middle order or lack of any real batting after Warner and Bairstow? Because Manish Pandey has scored a couple of, he's got runs, but he's been so slow and he just held up everyone else. And then they have Vijay Shankar, Abdul Samad, and these guys have just not
Yeah.
clicked for them. And they had 2 winnable matches with great starts against Mumbai and Sunrisers, Mumbai and RCB. And then they couldn't handle the pressure, which was not even much. So I'm not surprised, and I don't think this is going to improve for them anytime soon.
Yeah. I totally agree. We spoke about it in the first episode. There is a big hole in the middle order, and I just don't see who's going to fill it. The only contender I think is Jason Holder, who can maybe provide some experience, international experience, because that he's an overseas player, right? So he can probably provide something there. Uh, Look, Vijay Shankar and Abdul Samad are good players. It's not like they can't put bat to ball, but I think at the moment they're not capable at the moment of doing it alone and being the sort of rock in the middle order that SRH really needs. So they bought Kedar Jadhav in the auctions for this very reason. But honestly speaking, I don't think Kedar Jadhav is going to provide them with that answer either. He didn't play the last game that SRH played also. So there's a big hole there, and they need to find a way quickly to cover it because we've seen what happens in the IPL, right? The minute you get onto a trend of losing a lot of matches, that trend doesn't seem to stop. So
Yeah,
they've lost 3 on the trot, and it could very soon be 6 on the trot, and that's the end of the tournament. So
yeah,
Sunrisers really have some work to do in that regard.
yeah. And I think David Warner has just openly come out and said that our batting is not good enough, and he's like, we can't finish games and we can't take it deep. So not a good look from a captain so early in the tournament. But yeah, I mean, it's honest, but he's he's just come out and said it in the press conference yesterday that he's not surprised either. So
Yeah.
I think Kane Williamson he was injured, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
So maybe if he gets back to fitness, they have to find a way to get him in because he's just too good a player to be sitting out like this. Like he should really look for a new franchise
Yeah.
next year because it's to
Exactly.
have players like that on the sidelines. They can't fit him in because they have to play Warner, Best, or Rashid Khan, and then since their middle order is so weak, they have to play Jason Holder or play Nabi or one of the spinners. So it's bad selection that's bringing them down.
Yeah, exactly. I think Kane Williamson's injury is crucial for them. It's really impacting them because a fit Kane Williamson, in theory, is the answer to the middle order hole, right? And the reason I didn't mention him before this was because of this injury.
Yeah,
But the thing is that if Kane Williamson recovers from the injury, and is available for selection, then they have the issue about who to drop.
yeah,
Because for sure you cannot drop David Warner. He's your captain. You cannot drop Rashid Khan, right? Uh, you, what do you do with Jason Holder? Okay, potentially you play him, but then that means that because he's an all-rounder, right? So you potentially play him. That means you cannot have Johnny Bairstow, but Johnny Bairstow is scoring runs in that team. So
yeah,
how can you drop him? So probably they need to drop Holder, but then they drop Holder, then the lower middle order lacks power, and the bowling unit doesn't seem to be that lethal. So a real problem for SRH. So that their season could very well just go downhill from here if they don't win their next few games.
yeah. I'm just trying to see who are they playing next. They have, yeah. I mean, I think every team is actually better than them at this point, so it doesn't really matter who they play. They hopefully they can find a way to, maybe if they bat first with their spinners, they can do something because it seems like they just can't handle the pressure while chasing. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Point that kind of stuck out this week um, was Sanju Samson not taking a single in that brilliant 100 that he scored.
Yeah,
Right, and I know that he's come out in the press saying that he would do it again. But I don't know what's your opinion on it, and we'll come to that. But in at least for me, I think he should have taken that run, and he probably there probably was the opportunity to even come back for the second. I thought. Uh, Also, had there been no opportunity, had there been just a single taken, it would have meant that Chris Morris would have been on strike. And I think Morris is fully capable as well of, trying to hit a four or a six. Because the equation was 5 runs of 2 balls. Had he taken a single, it would have become 4 runs of 1 ball. And it gives you options, right? You don't have to necessarily hit the ball outside the ground then. You can
yeah,
get an inside edge and that goes for four and you win. So I think he could have taken the single because Morris is fully capable of hitting a boundary. Let's say he's an international player, he's an overseas player, so he's got the experience as well of handling pressure. So I was surprised by that decision by Sanju Samson. That being said, it was an amazing knock. It was really typical Samson. So much time, so much class, clean sixes, clean ball striking in general.
yeah. I agree. I think he was just so high on adrenaline, maybe the way he was playing, that it was a bad call in the heat of the moment. But it's kind of insulting to Chris Morris as well, like to not trust someone you paid so much money to, and forget about the money. Even he's just such an established international player, and he did it in the very next game. He won the game for them, so probably rubbing some salt into their wounds. But yeah, I think it's something they'll get over. But it was a bad call. I agree. But great to see Sanju Samson in such good form. I think it's good for not only Rajasthan but maybe even for the Indian team if he gets selected uh, for the T20 World Cup later this year. Cool. I think we've covered all the teams. I think it's, as I said at the beginning of the episode, it's getting up to an exciting time. It's always, especially after the next week, I think most teams would have played about 5 or 6 matches, and then that's going to be gearing up towards the business end. We have, I wouldn't say we still don't know who's going to be in the playoffs. I think we know a couple of teams who are doing really well, and then one team which is clearly struggling, but everyone else is, it's still up for grabs, very much so. Okay, I think we will wrap this up right here, and we will be back next week with another episode covering the week's action, and we'll talk about what's happened in the IPL and how it's shaping up now, leading up to the playoffs. Thanks again for watching this time, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thanks for watching.